Hello, hello.
So we're good to roll. Here, second, I was gonna give another 5 minutes for people to filter in.
I can also turn my game up.
Well, let me adjust your volume first. All right, give me a couple of lines.
How is it?
All right, cool. We're good.
Awesome.
So hello. So we haven't got to interact too terribly much yet. But it's a pleasure to finally get to speak with you. I know we planned this for almost a month ago, and we both had something come up on the 2 times we've tried to schedule it. So I'm just happy it actually came together this time.
Yeah, it's been a hectic month.
Yeah, same. So, the while we're giving some warm up time, the plan is to discuss your world building, your kind of theming, and overall desired end goals. So from what I've looked at already, because I looked through the document you sent over, you have some character plot points, arcs set up. So it looks like, because you already have the named out arcs, I'm assuming you have something in mind already for the other arcs, right? Like you already have a overarching story planned out already, right? Thank you for the follow, Undead Mortal. Welcome to the Legion. So cool. So that's actually going to be very helpful, because whenever I do world building, one of the things I try to do is make sure that if I have a long-term goal, like an end goal that I want to reach, I want to make sure that I can build the world up to make a satisfying conclusion at that endpoint. Okay? But also make the world fleshed out enough that if I ever wanted to go back to that world again and tell a different story, that opportunity would be there as well, right? So the fact that you already have a complete narrative arc planned is very good. Hello, Greed and Izard. We're gonna be starting up here in about 3 minutes, guys. Thank you so much for dropping in. I'm assuming these are some people from your community.
Yeah, I shared it in the Discord, so the cult is coming.
Yeah, well, the Legion welcomes them. So I think before we dive into what you sent over, I'm going to walk you through some of my world building documents that I have to get a general idea of where we stand with things. Okay? Sound good?
Yep.
So yeah, we got about 2 more minutes. So how's everything going for you? Everything working well so far?
So far, yeah.
Cool. How much have you written already on this project?
What you see.
Okay. So that's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I prefer to have a good world building foundation before I ever start writing a word. Full disclosure, I'm not a published author. Okay, I write a lot, but I've never went out and tried to get myself published, mostly because I do it as a hobby and for fun. I play D&D a lot, so I do a lot of world building and stuff. So while I cannot, give you any tips or pointers in the publishing process, or even the editorial process, like I could definitely beta read and be good at a beta reader, since I enjoy fiction. So like that's kind of what the type of people you want for beta readers is, like your target demographic, so to speak. But what I am really good at is world building. I take a lot of pride in my ability to make good in-depth worlds. It's part of being a forever DM, is that like I have gone from scratch to complete world build in a matter of an hour, and make it feel fully fleshed out and living, which is part of what we're going to be going through with these documents. Okay. Thanks, Greed. I appreciate that. All right, cool. But outside of the writing process, working well, streaming going the way you want it, everything good?
Yeah, streaming's been fun. I had to take yesterday off but other than that,
I mean, it's always good to take a break when you need one, right? No shame in that. I stream probably, so my goal is to stream 40 hours a week, every week, and I pretty much crush that goal every week. But it's still hit and miss sometimes if I can actually get done with everything I want. All right, cool. So that is 5 o'clock. So I'll go ahead and bring the screen up for everyone. Transition over to. Hello. And thank you for joining the Legion Greed. Welcome. Let me go ahead and get. Do you have a reactive image set up?
I do, yes.
Okay, it's not showing up. Oh, wait, that's why I had it unchecked. There we go. Let me resize you really quick so you're a little bit more visible, because right now you're just a tiny little thing in the corner.
Itty bitty.
Yeah, there we go. So a little bit bigger. We're gonna have a lot of dead space on the screen. Always like that whenever it comes to world building stuff. There we go. There we go. Take you behind my shoulder right there. So you're looking over my shoulder while we work on your stuff. All right, cool. So, yeah, let me zoom in. Thank you guys for joining the Legion. I appreciate it. So let me go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, make it easier for the viewers to read what we're reading through. One of the things I always struggle with whenever it comes to these Worldbuild Wednesdays is making sure that the people watching on their phones are able to actually see everything I'm talking about. All right, cool. Streamlabs over there. Way. Oh. Well, thank you, Undead, and thank you for becoming a standard bearer. Welcome. The Legion loves the support. Discord over here. I have 3 monitors, so I'm juggling. Oh my god, thank you. And enjoy your golden package, Undead. It's every man's dream to have a golden package, and you have one now, so congratulations. Yeah, that's very easily seen. Cool. All right. So, Savvy, I'm going to start out going through some definitions with you. I feel like I know where the majority of yours is going to land, but I'm going to make sure I go through everything so you have the chance to make sure that you know where you're standing on things, right? So, the way I break this down is that there are some, like, what I refer to as master settings, and then there are secondary settings, right? So, sci-fi, fantasy, modern. Those are the 3 master settings, right? I feel like we're pretty comfortably in the fantasy setting for your setting, correct?
Oh yeah.
Cool. Because I mean, I didn't see anything that hinted at urban fantasy, but that's also possible. I didn't see anything, but here we are. So there's 3 secondary categories for fantasy. There's high fantasy, low fantasy, and sci fantasy. From what I was looking at, it looks like you're leaning more towards high fantasy, correct?
Yeah, high fantasy.
All right, so fantasy being magic is key to the setting and has shaped the world dramatically. It may take place on an alternative Earth, another planet, or within the bounds of space driven by magic, right? So like if you've ever read or heard anything in regards to like Magic the Gathering, right? Space doesn't work the way space works for us. Like there is no outer space to speak of in the Magic the Gathering universe. Every realm is its own like collective little thing. So that's kind of what that's talking about. Like the bounds of space are driven by magic in that situation. So high fantasy has many epic quotation elements. Magic is a strong presence in the world. Examples of this genre are Lord of the Rings and World of Warcraft, right? So I'm a little thrown off by how I put Game of Thrones as low fantasy, but it is low fantasy in the sense that how much do you know about Game of Thrones?
I only know that a lot of people died at a wedding. That is
fair enough. So essentially, it's a low fantasy setting with one high fantasy setting character, right? So Daenerys shows up with fucking dragons to a place that has low magic standards. Right. So I feel like from what I've looked at on the document you sent over, we're talking about high fantasy period. Like it is not uncommon for powerful magical beings to exist in this world. Right.
Correct.
Cool. All right. So that's great. So then we can drop down here. So that is settings. Now we're going to talk about genres. So some of these I haven't actually filled out, but I can talk about fairly confidently. So genres are kind of what sets, you know, Star Wars apart from Star Trek, right? Let's look at actually, let's skip this just a little bit. I'm going to talk about the scope first, and then we're actually going to skip over to a different page. So the scope of this world build is going to focus on your choice of either world, realm, or kingdom. I know it goes beyond city from what I've read already. So is the novel you're writing focusing solely on a kingdom, a realm, like a continent, or the entire world, so multiple continents?
So there are multiple continents that are...
But are you focused on them?
No, focused, no. There will be characters from them, but it's not focused.
So then the focus would be realm, right? If you're focused on a continent. Are there multiple kingdoms on this continent, I assume?
There's one.
Well, okay, not kingdoms, maybe power structures. I think it's probably a better way to word that.
No. In this world, one.
Okay, so then actually we can even go even further down and say kingdom level. Now, the reason that scope is important is because that dramatically changes at the level of detail we need to flesh out to make sure the world feels lived in, right? You need a lot more detail if your entire story takes place inside of a single city versus if you're inside of an entire kingdom, right? It's a lot harder to make a single city feel lived in than it does to make a whole kingdom, because you can be much more vague when it comes to kingdoms, right? Cool. And we'll skip tech levels and stuff for now, and we'll come back to those. But I guess we will talk about tech type really quick. So is there any technology in your story? And if so, what drives the technology?
The closest, I think, on that list would be Magitech.
Okay. So Magitech is essentially like if you think about our modern level of technology, like having TVs or having guns or something, the difference being is like electricity, while it might be a thing, is not what drives the technology. Magnetism, not what drives the technology. Gunpowder, not what drives the technology. Instead, it's magic is the core to the technology, right? So, and it doesn't even have to be like it's commonplace for people to have cars, right, that are driven by magic or whatever. It could just be that there's this one mad scientist magician that has started developing these like inventions of magic, right? Right. Okay. So agreed. That's actually a very good question. So what's the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek? Is that Star Wars is a sci-fantasy, Star Trek is a sci-fi, meaning that sci-fi means that you actually have explanations of the things. The problem is that they try to backtrack into science fiction in the prequel trilogy by saying, oh, midichlorians is what gives people the Force. That was kind of pushing the edge onto sci-fi versus sci-fantasy. But good question. Okay, so how common is how common is magic in your world, or how common is Magitech in your world? Is it like semi-common? Is it very rare?
On the rare side.
On the rare side? Cool. And by the way, if I ask you any questions you don't have an answer for, and you just say, I don't know, we can discuss it and come up with an answer together if you want. Okay. All right. Because I don't want to put you on the spotlight and be like, give me the answer. Where is he hiding the bodies? Anything like that. This is all in the benefit of like trying to help you flesh out the world that you want to build, right? So if you don't know the answer yet, there's nothing wrong with saying, I haven't thought about that yet. Let's look into it more. Okay. Cool. So the rare technology that is there, what level of technology are we talking about? Is it like, oh, they have magic crossbows? Do they have a magic cotton weaver? Do they have a magic car or magic guns? Or do they have magic technology that exceeds what we have in our everyday life?
So my character will have enchanted daggers.
So there's a distinction between enchanted items and Magitech items, right? So enchanted items means that you put magic into an item. That in itself does not make it Magitech. Magitechs have like gears, they have things, but the power source is magic. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to think. That would only be royals would have that.
Okay.
And I'd have to think of what type they would.
So, okay, well, see, here's a great question, right? So, you said that on this continent, there's only one kingdom, right? There's only one centralized power. And you're saying, well, royals are probably the only ones that have any level of real magitech. Well, to me, that means that it's because they have this magitech that allows them to control this dominion without opposition, right? So it would make sense to me that like if they have that level, it could be that they have like the magic guns or magic cell phones of some. Well, cell phones wouldn't really work in this situation, but like having something magical that allows them to keep the people of this realm not necessarily under, because they could be a benevolent kingdom. I'm not sure about your kingdom's policies yet, but what I'm saying is like if a kingdom is unopposed, chances are they have a technological superiority over the people that would oppose them, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we'll cross that bridge here shortly. I think that's going to matter more once we get into the tone section, so we'll get there. Now, text spread we've actually kind of covered in the fact that it's guarded, so the technology is guarded. The royals are the only one that have this technology. It's not freely given to the peasantry or anything like that. So the tech spread is guarded, and you said there's other continents. Now, you've probably never even considered this, but is the same type of magitech all across the continent, or is this only in this kingdom that they have this type of technology?
It would be only in this kingdom.
Okay. So that would make it heterogeneous. So that means that essentially it's developed here, it's kept here, and they're not going to allow it to go anywhere else, right? Which makes sense, right? If they got the technology, if they developed the technology, and that's what allowed them to rise to power, it makes sense that they wouldn't allow that to get out and about, right? Cool. So we're going to skip over genre for a minute and go over to tone first, because I feel like tone is going to be more important for what we're discussing. So we have this nice little alignment chart up here, right? So we're going to figure out where in this your world falls. Thank you, Taylor, for joining the Legion. Welcome. So let's start out with the bright, neutral, dark intersection. So bright means that the world is pleasant and uplifting and looks to be utopian on the surface. Neutral just means the world has its good places and its bad places, but overall is balanced across everything. Dark means the world is gloomy and unappealing overall, with things generally going badly across the entirety of the city. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Populist tone, which is the grim, neutral, noble. So the world tone is essentially like, what's the setting like? The populist tone is what are the people like, right? So grim, people within the setting are generally amoral and nihilistic and pessimistic to a fault. Neutral, the average person will do both good and evil in their lives, and you will meet people across the entire spectrum. This is how reality works most of the time, right? Like our real world. And then there's noble. People are generally good in this setting and willing to help those around them without hesitation. Now, that doesn't mean that a noble setting won't have its villains, right? There's still someone that is acting as an antagonist. It's just generally like if you go into it, like if your character stumbles into a village, they are more likely to be helped versus shunned. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So those are the three, and then we have a breakdown down here of what that tone means. So if you had to do a rough guess, where on this alignment chart do you think your world's set?
It starts out bright neutral.
Okay, bright neutral. Okay. So you said that it starts there. So a bright world. With it being bright neutral, you say it starts there, and it shifts. Is the tone I'm getting? Where does it shift as the story goes?
As it shifts, it's definitely dark grim.
Dark grim. Okay, so grim dark. Okay, so that's so is it a matter of the character's perspective, or is the world actually changing?
Character's perspective.
Okay, so then that would mean that the world is grim dark. You have an unreliable narrator. The narrator doesn't have perfect knowledge, right? Because I'm assuming your character is quote unquote the narrator, right? The book takes place from her point of view. So for her, at the beginning, she sees the world as a bright world, bright neutral, right? But through the course of her adventure, she realizes she doesn't live in a bright world. She lives in a grim dark world. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's drop down here really quick and read grimdark and make sure that that's fully where you're sitting. The world sucks, and so does its inhabitants. Anti-heroes thrive in this setting, and true heroism was forgotten long ago. All right, so I think an interesting point to think about here is that since your character starts out as a neutral bright, people come in a wide array of types, but things are looking up overall, right? So I think it's very interesting to say, okay, she had this like idyllic life to begin with, right? She had a good setting. She had good people around her. Yeah, she got screwed over sometimes, but generally speaking, everything was on the up and up for her. But then over time, she starts to see the world for the shitty place it actually is, right? Does your character want to make the world into the neutral, bright place that she thought it was? Or is she going to become jaded and just accept that it's a grim, dark reality and make her way in that type of world?
This particular book?
So speaking, so thank you for continuing your subscription, Echo. So yeah, so all the ads are up front. Greed, sorry, bud. If you miss anything, I'll try to catch you back up. But you only get ads once an hour. Unfortunately, they make it fucking 6 ads in a row. But you average out over the same number. Sorry about that, guys. We can discuss that, right, as the saga, right, the complete saga. She's going to have one path, and then on like the first novel, she's only going to reach this point in that overarching journey, right? Here, let me actually share my screen with you so you can read just a little bit better too, Savvy. I'm sorry. I just realized you're probably staring at my stream and not the... Is that better? I shared it on Discord for you. All right, cool. So let's talk about first, like, what is your plan for her for the entire cycle? Like, long view, all 4 novels, where she starts to where she ends. What is that? And then we can scale saying, well, in the first novel, she's going to get to this point in the arc. In the second novel, she'll get a little bit further, so on and forth, until the last one. Okay, so sorry guys about the 6 ads. I have it set up so you only get ads once an hour, so you can go longer without ads. Sorry that you had to deal with them all up front. Greed, I will talk to you. I'll talk about Noble or Bright again here in just a second. But we're kind of discussing the scope of what we're going to be looking at today. So it's up to you, Savvy. Do you want to look at the cycle, or do you want to look specifically at the arc she's going to take in the first novel?
We could look at the cycle.
Okay, cool. So where the story ends, you're like in your mind, you're saying, okay, at the end of this story, she is going to either accept that the world is grimdark and just thrive in that setting. So essentially, she's going to become an anti-hero and just kind of thrive in that setting, or is she going to do her best to change it from a grimdark setting to a noble bright or a noble dark or things like that?
I think at the end, it would be more of neutral bright. is what she will create.
That's what she's trying to get. So she's trying to make the world into what she thought it was before her adventure started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a noble goal. I think that's perfect, right? So agreed to answer your question as to what bright means. Bright is part of the world tones. So the world tones are bright, neutral, or dark. Bright means the world is pleasant and uplifting and looks to be utopian on the surface. All right, cool. So I feel like then we have our tone, right? So it's important to realize what tone you want to write into, right? So especially like since you're, well, thank you, Taylor, for joining the Legion. Welcome to being a standard bearer, man. So you already have this idea of like, okay, so she is starting out in this neutral, bright position, right? And then she's going to be exposed to how the world looks and have to come to grips with that, right? So in the beginning, when you first start writing, you can use a lot more flowery, a lot fluffier language. Oh, hey, look, thanks guys. This is actually the second time I've ever had a hype train. Thank you so much, guys, for getting me there. I appreciate it. Literally the second time it's ever happened. So yeah, and I've been streaming for a year come August 1st. So it really does mean a lot to me. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, the cult's about to.
oh no, active full. So if you, I don't know if you're taking notes, but I would definitely write this down as a tip for the long haul, right? Thank you guys. For the long haul, the idea would be that, okay, I'm going to use brighter, more flowery tones in my writing in the first few chapters, like when she's still in her initial setting, right? And then as she gets exposed more and more to these other shittier parts of the world, then your language starts to shift and adapt to encompass that change in atmosphere and how she sees the world, right?
Okay.
All right. Awesome. So, so we got our tone. We got our tone all set. Great. We settled on a good setting. Like we understand what the setting is going to be. So, do I have permissions to write on this? I think
you should.
Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. So our, I'm gonna just put some notes at the very top for the settings and tone. So the setting we settled on was high fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it is a grim dark. Right. So there's your tone, right? All right, cool. So I'm just putting those at the top, just so that like we can always refer back to them to like, settle how we want to shift the direction of what we're writing currently, right? Because that's very important. It's the difference between being a dime novel author and being a great author is being able to keep consistently in your tone and your understanding of how things go. I say this never having been published, but like I've read enough of these, in this medium to know what that difference is, right? So that being the thought process, right? That's what we're thinking. We're going to shift over to genre, right? So genre is more specific than the setting was, right? So on the definitions page where we first did our settings, right? I'm going to scroll a little bit lower. So actually, no, I'm just going to use the genre page because I can define everything better than the scan. So if we're going to go into fantasy, right? So you have your primary setting, your subsetting, your primary and secondary genre, right? So these are your settings, these are your genre. We've already gotten you up to the point of having your primary setting, your subsetting set, right? You are a high fantasy novel, right? So we're going to pick a primary and secondary genre within that setting type, okay? So some of these, and you don't have to have both of these, right? I would always recommend having at least a primary. Secondary can really help though, right? So Utopian, Dystopian, you probably know what those means, right?
Might need a refresher.
Okay, so Utopian is like everything is rainbow and gumdrops, right? Everything in a utopian society, there is no struggle. People have every basic need that they need. The power and distribution of power is ideal for the setting. That is kind of what utopian means, right? Dystopian means that the world is shit. There's inequality everywhere. The people are oppressed. There's a controlling government that keeps everyone under the heel of their boot. No one has the freedoms that they need to live a basic quality of life. So that's what utopian and dystopian means, right? Those, you don't have to write a utopian and dystopian. Most worlds fall in between those two extremes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, post-apocalypse and post-post-apocalypse. Post-apocalypse means that the world's already gone to shit. Like, think Mad Max, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything's shitty. People have to struggle just to survive. Something wiped out. Like there used to be a quality of life. It is nowhere near what it used to be. It could be from like nuclear war. It could be from like a magic reactor blew up from an experiment. It could be that a mad wizard killed half of the population of the planet. There's all sorts of things that can put you into post-apocalypse setting, right? From what we've discussed so far, it doesn't sound like you're in a post-apocalypse, right?
Nope.
So post-apocalypse is essentially what occurs after everything levels back out again, right? So most Ghibli movies, like The Valley of the Wind, right? That's a post-apocalypse. Something's already happened, right? And now the world has evened itself back out again, but there's like these hints of like ancient technology, forerunners, forebears. Interestingly enough, Halo, for instance, right? Halo is actually a post-apocalypse sci-fi, right? Because it deals with things that came before like our current history, where there were these forerunners and pre-runners and so on and so on, right? So it's interesting because not a lot of people will write a post-apocalypse for, future setting stuff. Not here nor there. Yes, agreed. So horror, I feel like I don't need to explain to you what horror is. Same for cosmic horror. I feel like you probably have a very good grasp on that. Now, superhero does not necessarily mean that there are people with spandex and tights and capes running around fighting evil or whatever. What superhero means is that there is a set group of people whose prowess, either it be magical, martial, or just, whatever gives them the power, sets them as a tier above normal mortals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for instance, if magic only was, like, if the only way that people had magic is if they were born with it, and it's only 5% of the population is ever born to have magic, right? That would be a superhero genre. Now, it would never be labeled that. Don't get me wrong. This is how I do world building. You're not going to go to a publishing house and be like, oh yeah, I have a superhero fantasy novel. Oh no, there's no superheroes in it. That's just what I call it. This is just for setting the tone that me and you are going to be working with them. Okay?
Okay.
So what do you think out of those is your primary genre type?
The closest from what's listed would probably superhero in a sense.
Okay. So, all right. So if none of them fit, and there's nothing wrong with that. These are kind of shorthand things I use. So if you don't think any of these fit, then that's okay. We can just shy away from using any of these like as basic groundwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, just for now, let's say there's no primary or secondary, because it sounds like you're a little shaky on that superhero answer. So it's okay. Let's just go with nothing for now, and we might circle back to that. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So I went through and defined. Yeah. So select people within the world have developed an ability or change that sets them above, beyond the limits of normal people. Okay. That's why I was.
Okay.
So superhero doesn't have to be. There are other things, other options. It might be actually that you're falling under an opera, which I don't have listed under fantasy, but there is a lot of fantasy operas. So both epic in scale and personal within its characters. Operas are about people taking on something bigger than themselves and the struggles to prevail. So Star Wars is a space opera, right? It's a science fantasy space opera, meaning that we focus on these very specific characters and their struggles to overthrow an empire. Does that sound more in line with what you're trying to write?
That's a lot closer, yeah.
All right, cool. So I kind of shocked that I didn't have that under the fantasy thing, because it could have been, but it is what it is. All right, cool. So we're writing a high fantasy opera. So we've already talked about scope, tech types. Yep, we've already done all of them. All right, so I'm gonna hop back over here, and then if you go to a publisher and say, like, I have a fantasy opera that I'm working on, they will know what that means.
Okay.
That is a normal term to be used with publishers and editors. So this is something you can actually say, like, okay, here is the keywords and tricky phrases for my story. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that being noted, right, let's start with well, where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about some of your places first? Do you want to talk about some of the clans? Like, where do you want to start at?
Like,
or where do you feel weakest? Might be a better question.
The weakest. I'm thinking.
No pressure. So here, let me give you a couple options, right? Do you feel weaker in the setting, like where the action takes place? Do you feel weaker in the history of the world? Do you feel weaker in the characters inside the setting of the world, and how they interact with the world, like that portion of the world building? Do you feel weaker with the political structures of this world? Like there is a whole lot of nuance that goes into getting a good, strong world build, right? But once you have that base work down, it actually becomes pretty easy to say, hint at those things with very few words in the actual story, right? So let's say we have the RX ideas. So when you say quotation Wiccan clan names, what do you mean by Wiccan?
Wiccan, like all of the names and everything, even what it's named after, is Celtic. But because it's magic and witchcraft related, that's why I put in quotations.
Okay, so Wiccan isn't something specifically used inside of the story. Like there's nothing inside the story called Wiccan, right? These aren't like the clans of, like, these aren't the Wiccan clans, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure that was on the same place. So see here. So I want to see if there's any terms. So yep, Light Coven, Dark Coven, Outcast Coven. So this is what sets your character, like your character, apart from normal magic users within this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because whenever I came across that, I was like, okay, this sounds like paste there we go. That's what it sounded like to me. Like this is okay. This is where he becomes the protagonist, right? So developed and used. Is it exclusively TwistedSavvy?
There'll be more in the Outcasted Coven
Later on.
Yeah.
Okay, used by Savvy. The initial practitioner and teacher of this. So I'm going to go ahead and say that anytime that you put Dark Coven, Light Coven, or Outcast Coven, you should also capitalize the C. I'm going to tell you that it's a recommendation. Of course, this is your story. You do whatever you want with it. But I'm saying you should probably capitalize it because Dark Coven, Light Coven, Outcast Coven are specific things, right? They are proper nouns, right? Now, you can have a lowercase c coven that practices a capital Light Coven. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what is in this world, I know what coven means in our world, but in this world, what does coven mean? What does a coven mean to this world? Is that just a specific type of magic?
Yeah, it would be specific users.
So all right. Another great question then. So, and I should go ahead and clarify something with you real quick. So the way I do world building, right, is I will pick a subject and I will keep questioning that subject and digging into it to get it to a level of understanding, saying like, so that the average reader is going to be able to say, oh, okay, this is why it's this, right? It makes sense in a world sense, right? So like, for instance, if we were talking about like, oh, it always snows. It's always snowing in this city. Okay, why is it always snowing in this city? Oh, because there's a mountain, and then on the other side of the mountain is an ocean. The ocean evaporates, creates condensation. It goes over the mountain, becomes snow, and then the snow keeps drifting down, or like the snow blows over, and it's always snowing in this city. So we had to ask a few questions as to how or why and build back to make that world building decision make sense in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a coven is specifically is it like a pact of people that access that magic through that pact, or is it any magic is a coven of some sort?
I'm trying to, well, I guess spoilers are going to.
Yeah, so, well, okay, so if there's anything, yeah, so if there's anything that you don't want to spoil, right, you can always just say, that's a spoiler, but here's the definition as best as I can give it, or something, right?
That's why I'm trying to.
All right, let me rework the question a little bit to make it easier on you. All right, how do people gain access to magic in this world?
It would technically be genetics.
Genetics, okay. So magic is gained through genetics. How common is the genetic trait for magic?
On this continent, 100%.
100%. So every person has access to magic. Is every person a magic user?
No.
Okay. So everyone has the potential for magic, but it doesn't mean that everyone does use magic. That's great. There's a lot of character building potential there, where at some point Savvy can come across someone who is refuses to use magic, even though they might be one of the best magic users in the world. Like they might have the most potential out there, but they refuse to use it because of some trauma or something, right? You know what I mean? So that's really cool. That like that's a very cool dynamic to have established in this world already, right? So does every person that have access to magic have the ability to use light or dark coven?
Specific clans are only permitted to use light or dark.
No, so not permitted. Do they have the potential to use it?
Potentially, they can use both, but it
Okay.
is forbidden.
Gotcha. So that's the question. The reason I wanted to word it that way is like, so it's not that like you are born under a dark coven or you are born under a light coven and then Savvy figured out a way to bridge between the two. It's literally everyone has access to both of them, but people refuse to use one or the other because of socioeconomic, political, whatever reasons are put into place in this world. Right?
Mhm.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense to me. So let's cover first what a coven is. So coven typically in an English speaking like sense in our world means it is an agreement, cluster, or gathering of witches to perform or do magic as a group, or potentially as vampires will form a coven to hunt in a pack or keep some form um, of hierarchy amongst themselves so there's no infighting, right? It's essentially a way to bring structure to a group of magic users, right? So is that the same definition of coven for your world?
Basically, yeah.
All right, cool. So gathering and so is it the gathering and structure of magic users? Okay.
Mhm. Ouch, that's my foot, Copper.
So can anyone use magic if they're not part of a coven? Can you not be part of a coven and still use magic?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's a it's called voluntary. Okay. This is a voluntary process that is upheld. It's upheld by social structure, right?
It would be political.
Okay. Upheld by political rule. And what's the enforcement if someone doesn't?
If they don't join a coven
If they just say, no, I'm good.
and they're still using magic, then it would be imprisonment.
Okay. Enforced by, is it a kingdom? Is it a king that rules over these people? Or is it like what's the political structure for this continent?
There are 3 royals.
But they rule as like a tribunal of sorts?
Yeah.
The tribunals, and I'm not going to capitalize that because I'm not going to force you to use the terminology, but it is a tribunal by nature. If there's 3 leaders that work together to control this kingdom of sorts, that would be a tribunal. So, but I mean that's actually a pretty good name, I think. That is upheld. This is a voluntary process, but is upheld through political rule and enforced by the tribunals. Do they have a standing army?
Yes.
Enforced by the tribunals, standing army. And what's the name of their standing army? Do they have one? Do they have a name for their standing army?
I thought of a name and then I forgot it.
Okay, that's fine. Greed has a question for you. Will it be bad? I want to use magic without being bounded by rules. That's a question for you, Savvy.
It would be bad early on.
Okay, so at the beginning of the story, you'd be persecuted for that, which I think we kind of covered earlier. So I just want to make sure. So, so do you think this is a good definition for what a coven is within your world?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Dark Coven. Naturally avoided due to the types of magic they are known for, often hired for uneasy tasks by the Covens and royalty. By other Covens?
Yes.
Thank you for joining the Legion, Danny Jones. And so it says, and royalty. So is there any other royalty besides the tribunals, the heads of the three families, or however you would want to phrase that?
No, it's just them.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll leave it as a word. All right, cool. So with these dark covens or dark arts of any sort, is there sacrifices required? Like, is it just the outcome of the magic that makes it a dark coven, or is there a other component that makes it undesirable?
Makes it undesirable.
So like, so for instance, right? You say here are the examples, right, of necromancy, blood magic, dark arts, weapon enchantment, alchemy, binding, shapeshifting. These are all examples of the end product of using the magic. But is there anything like, is there any like sacrificial costs, or is there any side effects to it that cause people to say, oh, this is, or is it just all socio beliefs?
Yeah, it would be just the ways that society views
Okay,
the dark coven.
Okay. Coven that uses magic that is seen as unnatural and abhorrent, while there is no undesirable cost to use dark covens. By the majority. Does that ring true with you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. So, like Kevin, uses magic for financial gain by opening shops and mass producing spells and charms. Viewed by the public as saviors, blessings to the world. Okay. So, properly. So there's multiple covens, right? So I'm assuming that there are some covens that are more powerful or more well known, right? So not every light coven is going to be able to do the same things as like make love, like you said love here. I'm assuming that's like love potions or affect, like they enforce affection on others. Is that the case? Is that the implication?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So so is there a separation, like some of the weaker people can only do herbal magics, some of the more powerful ones are the only ones that can do like love or protection magic? Or is it just like anyone has the potential to do, or not potential, but like they're all equally powerful enough to do? So like one coven isn't specialized in herbal, all of them use herbal magic, regardless of which coven you're part of.
There are more quote unquote powerful, more so well-known covens or clans in the Light Coven.
Okay, well that's actually a good question then. So are covens inherently tied to specific clans?
Yes.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So at that point, it's not like you are born into a family and say, well, actually I want to go to this clan or this coven and study this. It's you're born into this clan, you are part of this coven now.
Yep.
Cool. All right, cool. So, so that would mean that down here, when we talk about the clan names here in a minute, we can actually specify what type of coven they're in, and then do the covens have different names than the clans? Which I don't think it would make sense, right? It would just be like the bulk coven or the blood egg coven, right?
Well, the clan inside of the coven.
Oh, so there's multiple clans inside one coven.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Then yes, then we can instead specify this clan belongs to this coven. How many covens are there?
The covens would just be the light and the
Or
dark,
dark covens?
and then
Oh, okay. So, all right. So there isn't like, okay, so I was thinking on a smaller scale of like, oh, a coven is specifically this group is part of this coven. This group is part of this coven. Like they're like, you're talking more like each coven is like more of a macro, not a micro coven. That's reading. I guess I was reading that. I was kind of giving you pause on some of my questions earlier because I was thinking of like, does this coven have, more powerful people in it? So it's either just light coven or dark coven. It doesn't matter. All right, that makes a little bit more sense. I follow now. So the SYC, what does that mean?
will be Savvy's Yandere.
Oh.
Supposed to be coven, but will be cult.
All right, so 22. What's Savvy's clan name?
He is, oh shit, what is she? A Duffy?
Duffy?
Or no, she's a Moor. That's what she is.
So funny enough, so yes, my father is, Mars, god of war, but my mother's side is actually Scottish and Irish. My mom is like a full ginger.
Oh shit.
And I can use that word. That's our word. You can't use that unless you are one. So all right. So the initial practitioner and teacher of this coven is Savvy Moore. She grows the still Covens. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So that's going well, Danny Jones. But I think actually, Savvy, how do you feel about the world building so far? Is this beneficial?
Yeah, I think it is.
That. So how many clans fall under the Dark Coven currently?
There is... Here, I'll put... Dark.
Hey, give me 1 second while you're...
Light. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So, how many covens are inside the Dark Coven?
There
how many
are
clans?
Four clans.
So I'm assuming these clans are much smaller or less populous than the other clans, right?
Yes.
Remember, guys, never use digits at the beginning or ending of sentences. All right, cool. So, you've probably heard it before, Bean. This is the stream music that I use anytime I'm doing Worldbuild Wednesday or when we were doing D&D sometimes. So, all right, cool. So, Coven that uses magics that are widely accepted and believed to be good by the world. Uses magic for financial. Oh, Bean says she's a big fan of yours.
Hey, thank you.
I did my best not to like fanboy too much whenever I was first talking to you, but it was hard to keep it all in. Here. All right, later, Bean. Talk to you when you get back, I guess. So the clans of the Light Coven use magic for financial gain by opening shops and mass producing spells and charms. So here's a question for you. And again, this is one of those things where I just want to make sure that, you know, we're putting pressure onto the world build enough to make sure that it holds up, right? Why would people go to, like, if everyone has access to magic, right? Everyone belongs to one of these clans that's within the Covens. Why do they need to go to others to get these charms and spells or go to these shops instead of just doing it themselves?
Because there are people that aren't part of a coven.
Oh.
That are just...
They just don't use magic.
Yeah. Or they can't use very much, which I'm trying to see how I can without spoil. Like there's peasants and then there's the covens that everyone knows.
So let's let's pause for a second and talk about the hierarchical structure of your world then. So at the top there's the tribunal, right? The three rulers, right? What's the next step down? Their families obviously are part of that, but like, are there just noble families? Are there dukes and duchesses and so on and so forth? Or is it just like the rulers, the nobles, the peasantry?
The political structure would be just the tribunal.
Okay, so there's no nobles outside of that ruling family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the peasantry does have clans, and that's how they can make a living, right? Am I understanding that?
Let me scroll down. The Moor clan is... Okay. The Moor clan is basically in cahoots with the tribunal to gain finances from the peasants.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's a plot specific point. But talking about on the world building level, right? The overarching world build. Which of these three clans are the tribunal?
They are their own clan.
So are they one of these listed ones, or are they separate ones?
They're separate ones. No one knows very much about them.
Oh, okay. So these aren't all the clans. These are just the ones that you've listed so far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does the F stand for next to McLaughlin?
That would be foreign.
Oh, that's kind of what I figured when it said Vikings. I was like, that sounds like someone coming from the outside. All right, cool. Makes sense. All right. So from that angle, right? if we're approaching this from an angle of, okay, so the three ruling families, are they all one clan, or is it three different clans working together to be rulers?
One clan.
One clan. Okay. Do they have a name?
No.
No. Okay.
They will only be referred to as the royals.
Gotcha. So it's all hereditary, I assume, right? Like they pass down. So how to word this properly? How many families are part of a clan? Generally speaking.
One.
Okay. So you would have one father, like, or one patriarchal figure, one matriarchal figure, and then everyone else is below them, right? So how does the royals, who have three heads, how are they designated, those three designated?
How would I know spoils?
So okay, better question then. Because I don't want to force you into a territory of giving away more than you're comfortable with. Let's look at it this way. So the royals have three figureheads, or three rulers. There's three. The tribunal is three. There's three rulers that are the royals, right?
Yep.
At the point at the beginning of the story, they're just known as the royals. Nothing spoiled down the road. They are in a position of power, right? So there is a power structure. Like if there's a legal dispute, they have to get involved and stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when people go in front of the royals for a dispute or something, all three of them are there to weigh in on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it three kings? Is it a king or a queen and a prince? Like what are they referred to by the masses? Like you go to see the royals and you have to give your dignitary, like you have to, like, you know, bow down to who when you walk into the chamber to levy your dispute.
I never thought of naming them kings or queens.
Oh, that's great. Like if you haven't thought about it yet, that just means that we're going to get to figure out an answer together, right? So, to that end, so how far into the first novel will someone meet the royals? When was the first time they were seen eyes on in the story? Not referred to. Like I figure they're probably going to be talked about at some point before we get to this point. But like, when is the first time Savvy puts eyes on a royal? How far in are we looking?
The end of the first arc.
Okay, first end of the first arc, not the end of the first novel, the end of the first arc. Cool.
Correct.
So between that point and the first words of the story, right, in between those two spots, who is ever referred, like, what are the situations that would be brought up where the royals would be mentioned or pointed at and say, oh, you know, we're on the run from the kings? Or and if you haven't thought about this yet, it's okay. This is literally just trying to make sure that we set ourselves up for a success later.
I wouldn't mind calling them
Or
kings
you
and
could just call them the
queens, which it
tribunal. I mean, you could just say the tribunal, and that's like, they are the royals. You will go before the tribunal, and you can never specify who is inside that chamber up until the point Savvy walks in, because maybe it's not known. Maybe you never know. Like, no one knows who the tribunal is until they go stand before them.
Yeah, I like that better.
Okay. And that works, right? So, and that adds an air of mystery. So it gives you leeway as a writer to integrate mystery and suspense into like who are the tribunals, like who's part of the tribunal, right? It gives you that opportunity to build up that sense of mystique and air of like superiority, right? Like I guess one of the concerns is that you want to make sure that you have plans for that big reveal. Okay.
Oh yeah, the first time they're shown is yeah.
Okay. So, no, you again don't. Actually, this is something that I will discuss with you offline, off stream, just so that I can help you more without giving spoilers away to everyone. But let's move on just a little bit further. So, let's start out with Dark Covens. You said there are currently 4 clans that reside within the Dark Coven, right?
Mhm.
I assume that this is not all of the clans on the island, right? You said before?
Correct.
So all 4 Dark Covens are listed here, right? There are no
Mhm.
other Dark Covens outside of these 4 listed here, right?
Correct.
Cool. So there's a lot more, like they might not play a role in the story, so you don't have to worry about listing them here or not, but there is still a lot of other Light Coven clans out there that are just out there. Now, my question is, we kind of discussed before, like there are people out there who just, they don't use magic, so it's okay for them not to be part of a coven. Are there people born into, let's say, the Duffy clan, right? Are there people born in the Duffy clan that would not be part of the Dark Coven? They just, like they're born to the Duffy clan, but they don't participate in magic. They just choose to opt out.
No.
Okay. So, let me think. So it's almost like the clans are almost like family businesses.
Basically, yeah, that's how they're looked at.
Okay, cool. And almost like a mafia almost. And they're like once you're in, you don't get out kind of mentality. Okay. So I guess the question now is, it's up to you. Do you want to go through the clans right now, or do you want to move on to something else?
We could. Yeah, we can do the clans.
All right, cool. So here's what I'm thinking, right? To flesh these clans out a little bit, and right to give you something, because what's really great about what we're doing right now, this world building stuff, is that what we can do is that we can say, okay, we're going to flesh out the bulk right now, right? We're going to fill out the bulk, get them to feel like where you are comfortable saying, yeah, this feels like an actual clan now. But you don't have to share all the information we write right now in your first novel, or even throughout all the novels. But what you can always do is refer back to your notes and say, okay, what is, for instance, what is the bulk clan motto? Like, what is their clan creed, right? Maybe you don't bring that up ever. Or maybe at one point, she has a run-in with the bulk, and the bulk in like a war cry screams out their creed, like it says pride. By the pride of the bulk, I fall, and like he charges into battle or whatever, right? Like those are the types of things that we can build out now, so that you have these pieces of information that you can drip feed to the audience later, or you just use them to make your own informed decisions about how you write the character. It's completely up to you how you do it, right? So are you on board for that?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's start out. Do you have a clan that you want to start out with? Is there one that you want to really flesh out first?
The Duffy and the Moore clan are going to be,
2 key factors.
yeah, definitely for Savvy's story.
Cool. So you said earlier, Savvy is a Moore, right? So let's start with the Moore. So here's what I would like to do. We're gonna race. Key clans. All right. So I'm just going to drop this down and give an example, right? So this is just a template. Coven type. Name. All right. Do you like the idea of giving each clan a clan creed?
I don't see what they would use it for.
Well, so okay, let's look at like history here, right? Or like I would point to like the Game of Thrones, right? Because what you're writing, at least what it sounds like, has a lot of political friction involved in the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that's important to have a like clan creed is that think about this. You grew up for 25 years, right, as the scion of this clan. Like you're the next one in line to take over as the head of the family, right? In the entire time you've been growing up, you've been told over and like you've heard this clan creed every day of your life. It's almost like propaganda in a way, right? So it's like I don't know, for Golden God, right, would be your clan motto, right? Meaning that everything you do is either for God or for gold. That's the tenet of what your clan stands for, right? So now you become the head of that clan, and that's the mental process that character operates off of. So now instead of having just a character that does whatever you want him to do for the story, you have characters that act and do things according to how they were brought up, the tragedies that took place in their lives and stuff like that, right? So this whole the clan creed is a shortcut for you as a writer to say, what is a general quality of all of this clan? Like what does this clan do that differentiates it? What makes a more different from a Duffy, from a Healy, from a McLaughlin? What is if you boil them down to a single sentence, if you boil the family's dynamics down to a single sentence, what would that be? So for bulk, right? Proud is what bulk means, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So something of their family or their clan creed would be something like proud to stand, never to fall, or something like that, right? And it would allude back to the meaning of their name. You never want to stay in the story, oh, the Balks, their name means proud. Instead, you want to say, oh, it's the Balk. They are always upstanding. They are always proud. Their clan credo is, always proud to stand, never to fall, right? And so without like pointing in the reader's face and saying, hey, this is what these people are like, this is their characterization, you give them a phrase like, oh, okay. And then when people read this story, right, they're going to be like, oh shit, the Duffys are cool as fuck. Oh, this is what that means? Oh, this is their family credo? Like, I have a tattoo on my arm right now for my favorite book because of something like this, right? So that's why you want to build out something to say, okay, this is the family credo, like this is the clan credo, this is the core tenet of what it means to be part of this clan, right? And like I said, you may never use it. You might go the entire novel and never drop what the clan credo is, but when you're writing one of the characters as part of this clan, you can always look back to their clan credo and help inform how you write that character with that name. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So are you okay with doing clan credos for everyone?
Yeah, we can.
All right, cool. So then we're going to put clan credo after that, or the clan creed, and then description, and then important characters. So this is the format we're going to use for each of the clans, right? So you said you wanted to start with more first, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's space these out a little bit so we have room to write. All right, cool. So starting with the more. So L more. Listed. All right. So more is so, and this is also important to note, right? So Savvy, I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, is going to go against her family credo at some point, or her clan creed at some point, right? Because otherwise, why would she end up making the outcasted coven, right? So at some point, she's going to have to go against her family creed or her clan creed. She's going to have to differentiate herself from that family. So, Echo, don't you start me spreading that propaganda in my fucking chat. I will ban you in a heartbeat. Sorry, that's my mod. You said that at the beginning of the first arc, she has this idyllic outlook on the world, right? And then she goes through this character arc where she realizes that she actually lives in a grimdark world, but she never realized it. Right? So, that being the case, her growing up as part of the Moore clan, what was the clan's creed that gave her this idyllic view of the world? Like, what does that clan stand for?
The Moors have always been basically kiss asses to the royals.
Okay. So something, and this isn't going to be the creed. I'm just writing down some key ideas so that we can brainstorm some creeds together. So they're loyalists, kiss asses. All right, what else?
They try, or usually each of the members, I guess, family, specialize in specific areas of light magic.
Light magic? Oh, cool. All right. So, right. All right, cool. So they all kind of focus on light magic. They're loyalist. They focus on light magic. What's their are they more warriors? Are they more healers? Are they more like what's their stance in society?
Stance in society. They're definitely not warriors.
So are they merchants? Are they
merchants?
Okay, so they value gold highly, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so looking at this, right? So do you want me to just throw out a couple of phrases and see which one you like?
Sure.
All right, so the first one that comes to mind, when I was like looking through this, I was thinking, by the golden light of loyalty. That was the first one that came to mind. For family, for kingdom, family, All right, so these are three, and again, you don't have to use any of these, but we can kind of talk about if you like one of these, if you like aspects of any certain one, and we can kind of mold and move things around to kind of fit better. Sound good?
Yeah.
So, what's your feelings on these three? Do any of them kind of stand out to you? Does any of them feel like, hey, this is the motto that Savvy grew up every day hearing that made her have this idealistic worldview?
Kind of the second one, but not the family part.
The second one? So for Kingdom. All right, so this was like I was putting in the order of priority for them. So if we drop the family part, right, we could say all for Kingdom or Gold. You like that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you happy with this being the, and of course you can go back and change any of this or fucking ignore it anyways, but are you happy with that one for now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So we're going to all for Kingdom or Gold. All right, cool. So then what are the colors, the clan colors? Typically clans would have 2 or 3 on their, like if we're talking Celtic, they would have them on their kilts typically, but I mean this is a fantasy novel, and so it's like literally, you know, what's on their sashes, like what color makes them stand apart from other clans. If you like, you walk in a room and you look around the room, how do you identify them more from the other clans? What colors?
It would be white and gold.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Do they have a do the clans have crests?
I might make them. As of right now, no.
Okay. So, well, better question, I guess. Do they have a standard, like a an animal that, like, because up here, right, like a wolf, Bledig, they obviously, their family crest would have something to do with a wolf, right? Now it doesn't have to be an animal per se. It could be like literally like you know, an axe or a gold coin. Maybe the Moors, like their family crest has a gold coin motif or something. But do they have anything that would be part of their standard that would be like a standout?
It would be a coin.
Coin?
Yeah.
So that would be their coat of arms, so to speak. So, all right, cool. And then I'm actually going to test. Oop. All right, cool. Going quick. So, description of the clan. Over parenthesizing everything, I'm just gonna put dashes. This is all informative. That's all this is. So this is literally, it doesn't have to be right and proper. This is just something for you to easily go back and refer to, right? So description of the clan. What is like 2 to 3 sentences that you think wrap up the more beyond what we've already discussed? Thank you, SMC. I appreciate it, buddy. So we kind of already said like a sniveling pile of kiss asses and gold chasers. Like that's kind of like the level of description I'm looking for. Is this accurate?
Oh yeah.
Okay. They you spell that, is it? Heck, that's the food. They will favor with the royals. Be better a lot. All right. One more sentence. What else do you think is important? Thank you. I appreciate it.
They are despised and despise anyone from a Dark Coven.
Because of their scheming? Is it because of they're constantly scheming against the Dark Covens?
The Dark Covens are able to see through their like half-assed charms that they sell.
Gotcha. To satisfy all Dark Covens of their shady and lackluster business. Sound about right?
Yep.
All right, so notable characters. So you already said Savvy. Actually, so Savvy, Puppy, Agnes, Finn, Cerberus. Am I missing any other Moors on here?
No.
Are there any other important Moors that you can think of off the top of your head?
No.
Cool. So down here. All right, cool. Is there anything else you want to discuss with the Moors before we move on?
No.
Do you want to do the Duffies next?
Yeah, we can do the Duffies.
Oh, that's the wrong one. That was a big misclick. I don't even know how I ended up on that one. My bad. I saw dark and went automatically to that. Cool. Go. All right. So, the Duffies. Let's brainstorm some plan creeds for them. So, they are part of the Dark Coven. So, what kind of magic do they specialize in?
They specialize in blood manipulation and weapon enchantment.
Anything else?
They're also the assassins for the royals.
Okay. All right, so let's see here. Let's go with all right, what are you feeling about these?
The last one, because their crest would have a dagger.
Okay, so do you like this one wholesale, or do you want to change this up?
No, that's fine.
Oh, and if you need to take a break, you let me know at any point. I know it's very mentally taxing to go through all of this, this level of detail, but I think that it will pay off in dividends. Thank you, Lisa, for joining the Legion. Welcome. All right. So, one dagger all together. I like that. It's very kind of poetic and like family oriented, which you would not expect from a dark clan. But you know, I assume that are the Duffies a lot closer together as a family.
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right. So their colors probably what, something like black and crimson.
Yeah.
Or okay, so we gotta be careful here because we don't want to tread too heavily into like I feel like for them, if they're like the blood and assassins, I feel like black and red obviously is very fitting for them. But I just want to make sure that like we keep in mind like we need to look for other colors that also work for the other ones. Because I'm already looking at like, okay, so the hues, fire, obviously they're going to use red and like orange or something like that, right? But then I'm like looking at like Doyle, Dark Foreigner. Well, what colors are we looking at there? Is it going to be like a charcoal gray and a light gray, or so? Let's just keep in the back of our minds that we have to keep an eye open for potential stepping stones ahead. Does that make sense?
The Doyles won't be very prominent. Outs well, in the third book and then in the first arc is the only.
Times you see them. Okay.
Mhm.
So is there anything else that would be prominent on their crest besides the dagger? Like a dagger, like with like 3 coins spread across it or something, or a blood droplet behind the dagger?
Um, Probably a pentagram behind the dagger because they're enchanted.
Dagger with pentagram. Cool. All right. So we're going to do the descriptions next. So again, 2 to 3 sentences that really sum up the Duffy.
Duffy's stay to themselves. They're hated. They are one of the smallest clans.
Okay. So isolationist. Are they the smallest or one of the smallest?
In the dark and light, they're the smallest.
Okay, so isolationist and the smallest Coven clan. They only approached for work by the tribunal and the richest of the other. About right?
Yep.
Publicly hated even by those that cool. I feel like that really sums up them up, right? All happy with the Duffs?
Yep.
Cool. Do you want to do, let's see, who's the other, did the Duffies already? So Doyle is the next one. I didn't see it. Damahan. Did I miss Damahan? Oh. Yeah, I don't see a Damahan on here. So the Doyles are the only other ones that have a character called out so far.
The other ones are kind of filler.
Filler? Okay, that's fine. So then we won't worry about them necessarily right now, especially if like you have plans for them, I'm guessing, for down the road. So we won't worry about developing them right now. That's something that you can do on like another session, or you can do on your own. Like I feel like as long as I'm giving you a good backbone to help you with your world building, I'm happy. I feel like I've done my job. So let's look at other continents with other magical beings. One from areas as far. So this takes place on the island of Felashite, right? How do you say that?
Let me scroll up to it. Or you're on it. I have 3 screens. Really messes me up. Flash day.
Flash Day. All right, so that is the place that this story is taking place on, right?
Yep.
Okay, so Flashians, wouldn't that be the name for people of the island, not foreigners away from the island?
Yeah, that's why it says they refer to anyone.
I follow now. Okay. So anyone from other areas as foreigners, and they are often shunned or attacked. So is there anything else, like the Vikings, the McLaughlin? So I'm guessing that the McLaughlins have set up their own clan on the island, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're generally hated by the other clans as well, then.
Yes.
Okay. So do they have access to magic?
They do.
Is that do they have a different magic than the Covens?
It would be different. Would kind of get into spoilerish because the only thing that you'll see from them until book 3 is basically hearing everyone talk shit about them, how much they hate them, stupid foreigners, da 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 da.
Huh.
And then you learn a little bit more
later on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm staying internally consistent with what I'm doing. Okay, so then, so the only characters we haven't really discussed are these here. Oh, okay. Well, here's something hinting at religion. Do you want to talk about the religion for this continent?
There won't be a religion. That is a plot point to the end of the book.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Let's kind of skim over that then. Nazo's arc. The Nazo's arc is the first arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so at that point, then we're just kind of doing the plotting, kind of reaching out further than the plan for the world build portion. So is there any more world building stuff you want to cover for this story?
So the whole continent island thing, there will be like an inner kingdom and then cities outside of that kingdom.
Okay, so okay, hold on a second. Let me do something really quick. Sorry, just 1 second. I have to use a different email to log into. So I didn't want to dox myself because it uses a private email. All right, so have you ever heard of Incarnate before?
No.
So I have a paid subscription for it, but you can actually use it for free and make some really great stuff. But like, if we look, like, these are the types of maps I've made for my D&D campaigns using Incarnate, right? And well, this is actually for my lore, my VTuber lore, but you can see, like, we can do like a continent. Gonna hit edit there. Oops. Either way, we can. Come on, there's loading. You got this. All right. So first, make sure I take away that. All right. So like, if you'd like, you can sit down and actually make you out a map together. Either, I guess we could do it now, though it's gonna take quite a bit of time to do, or we can do it later privately.
Yeah, probably later.
Okay, cool. Thank you, SMC. I appreciate that, bud. So the next question is going to be, then you were talking about how they have like a centralized kingdom. There's cities outside that central thing. Do they have any like open trade between the island and foreigners?
No.
Okay. So they are completely so they're an isolationist but also self-sufficient kingdom in and of themselves. Cool. So that leads me to ask, what are some of the more scarce resources, and what are some of the more like commonplace resources? And the reason I'm asking is, right, so we often think of like, so gold obviously we have established is their currency, right? They use gold coin for currency, which is commonplace. That's not necessarily unheard of. But like, what's something that like something that we as modern Earth humans would not necessarily, why did I sound like an alien when I said that? Something that we would not take for granted, or something we would take for granted as commonplace, but would be worth its weight in gold on your island. Like something that's just like, it's something only the nobility has.
Wine.
So is that because the climate is not suitable for grapes, and thus grapes are very hard to cultivate, and thus wine is very hard to come by? Does that logic make sense? So generally speaking, does that mean that it is too hot or too cold for grapes? Or too humid, or too arid?
Too dry.
Too dry. Okay. 1 second. All right, cool. So overall, the island itself, like besides like the coastal areas, I'm guessing, because it's an island, of course, it has, water around it. But like, is it just that it's the climate is very dry because there's not enough humidity from, like, there's not enough shallow waterways to make abundant humidity? Because like, if you think about like America, right, the places that are really humid, like Georgia, Florida, the coastal areas, those places are humid because they are next to large bodies of water, right? The thing is, like, California is well known for growing grapes, right? But at the same time, grapes can be grown anywhere in America. Not anywhere, but most anywhere. It's just that California is kind of an ideal spot. It has good temperature for it. It has the right amount of humidity because it's near the ocean. So like, it's kind of like this ideal situation, right? So for your island, like, wine is hard to come by because grapes are hard to come by because of what? What causes, you said humidity. Okay, so why is humidity an issue? Is it because it's just overly hot and dry, or is it that it's cold and dry? Like, what's the climate of your island?
Cold and dry.
Cold
I
and
don't
dry.
want to be hot. Even in a book, I don't want to do it.
That's, you know what? That's actually very great, because that means that now you have a cold, dry environment. Now you have an ideal reason to say, okay, well, maybe it's like it's cold year round. Maybe this island on the continent is much further north or much further south than the equator. So it's just perpetually dry. And if it's damp, it's going to snow. It's not going to rain. But also, or you said hot, right?
I don't want to be hot.
Okay, so cold. Yeah, okay. I agree. I'm actually, I run warm blooded as well. I prefer to be cold than hot. But you've kind of established now, okay, so just a simple question of, hey, what's rare here? Wine has now led us to be able to establish the environment that led to wine being rare. Do you see how I kind of bridge that gap? So that's, if you take nothing else away from this world building session, I hope that one of the things you take away is how to kind of navigate yourself into building your world out and fleshing it out by just simply asking yourself questions. Or if you have a partner, asking your partner, like a writing partner or even just a loved one, if you have someone that can throw questions against you about any given thing, it will help you justify and refine every piece of the way, right? And eventually you will come up to a point where you're contradicting yourself between two different points, right? Like, oh, well, it's cold and dry because of, you know, we got to that from the grapes. But then on a different line of questioning, we realized, like, wait, if it's cold and dry, then excuse me, they wouldn't have wheat bread. They would probably have rye bread, because rye is much more hardy than wheat. So now you can go back and say, okay, well, I want to specifically call out that they eat rye bread because of the climate, right? And now you have another tidbit that makes the world feel real. So, you know, if I think we've kind of went through the document that I had that you handed over. I've kind of talked, you know, a few other points. I've kind of given you some tips on how to flesh out your world building more. If you would like to come back on and do more world building another time, I would love to have you on again. It's strictly up to what you want. Savvy?
I would be down.
Cool. Do you want to do the map off air so that you can discuss kind of plot important things about making the map, or do you want to do the map next Wednesday after next?
Probably off stream. Okay. That way I don't slip up.
Okay, that's, you know what, valid. I often slip up with my details. Amount of detail in this game is insane. I mean, so we're discussing Savvy's novel, but this map right here, I mean, this map was for my D&D game, which is getting rebooted. So that's going to be on probably Saturdays is when we're going to be playing it going forward. Coming in September, probably around middle of September, probably is when we're going to start playing again. But yeah, so this map, I've gone in and zoomed in on some important regional areas for it. But this island, or this continent, Indril, is part of Indrig. And this is Indrig. Hello, Mega. So this is, like, up here, this is Indril, right? But this is all of Indrig. I've fleshed out this world quite a bit. But yeah, I feel like we've gotten some good ground, but Savvy, is there anything else you would like to discuss?
I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, then I guess we can call it good on Worldbuild Wednesday. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, I've done my best not to fanboy too much, because I told you before when I first reached out to you, I was like, yeah, I've been a fan since you were Savvy Huga and or Twisted Huga. So it's been what? Yeah, you rebranded at least it had been over a year ago.
It's been over a year.
Yeah, so because I saw your name multiple times pop up. Actually, hold on a second. Let me open up a different window. I don't know. Does it tell you on YouTube how long you've been subscribed to someone?
I'm not sure.
Let me see. Here.
Yeah, it's been a year and a half since I rebranded.
Yeah, it doesn't tell me how long I've been subscribed. Oh well. Well, so the Vegeta Fangirl rap, I remember seeing it come across my subscribe page. So I've been subscribed for at least a year. I don't remember the JoJo. No, actually I take that back because I remember the Ackerman's rap coming across my feed as well. So yeah, it's been greater than 2 years I've been following you.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Because yeah, like I said, I don't listen exclusively to nerdcore, but I listen to quite a bit of it. And whenever I first heard your lines for, I thought it was Mikasa that made me subscribe, but I don't think that's true anymore. I think I subscribed before that, and it might have actually been from your Gote 13 lines.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah. So if you would allow me some indulgences, how does collabing work for the nerdcore scene? Like, how does that whole process work? Like, does someone come with you like, hey, would you voice this specific, or would you rap for this specific character, or is it just like they throw up a name and like, all right, everyone sign up for who you want? Like, how's it done?
Usually they ask for specific characters.
Hmm.
So they'd be like, hey, will you do Mikasa?
Yeah. So for me, it made sense for you to be approached for like any like major yandere kind of character. I don't like, I hate to say you got typecasted, but I feel like you kind of leaned into it a little bit. So I think that's fair. So I have to ask, right? So when, for the fourth captain, right? For the Gote 13, of course, have you read the manga?
No.
Okay, so you were actually kind of the perfect pick, which if you've only watched Bleach, you wouldn't know that because, well, until here soon, because the 1,000-year blood arc is, or 1,000-year blood war arc is starting in October. But the fourth captain is fucking frightening, to say the least. So I was like, your voice was spot on for her in one of the raps, and like, so it must have been the Gote 13 whenever I first followed you, when that one dropped
a while ago.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just, yeah, I was always curious as like if you get approached for a specific character, or like if it was just kind of like a, hey, who wants to be part of a rap, here's the character, sign up. Like, I was always curious because I will never be able, like, I can't rap, I can't sing. That's my talents lie elsewhere. That being said, I do absolutely love the form and practice of it, and I'm always curious to learn more about those things. So, do you have any projects you're working on?
I have a whole album
that you're working on currently.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. All originals or doing some covers and originals?
All originals.
That's really cool. So is it's a rap album or kind of a rap rock, or is it nerdcore?
It is not nerdcore. I retired my nerdcore pen.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Sad days. We've lost the talent in the industry. Unfortunate, but understandable. I know, like, so that's one of the things, like, Daddy Fat Snaps, he released one of, it was one of his I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't Easy Bag. What's the other one he did? What's the name of it? Among Us. Imposters Among Us. That's it. Which, you know, optimized search engine, you know, he kind of nailed it on the head there. But you know, one of the lines in that one talks about how people talk down to nerdcore rappers, and like, I can't fathom why anyone would. Like, I don't listen to a lot of normal rap, right? I'm a fucking weeaboo, and I mean, I'm a fucking demigod. Like, what the fuck? What kind of what kind of expectations do people have here? But that being said, just looking at the sheer talent you guys all, like, you as a community collectively have shown, anyone who has said you guys are less talented than normal rappers boggles my mind. I can't understand how anyone who actually listens to your work can come with that approach, right? And so, while I understand, like, your decision, right, to leave that scene to pursue a normal rap career. I hope it wasn't because you were getting bullied for being a nerdcore rapper. I really hope that's not the case.
No.
Cool. Good to know. And yes, your performance for Lust was also amazing. Anyhow, all right, cool. Do you have a timeline on when you plan on your album to debut?
I'm actually a lot further along with it than I thought. But some of the older things that I wrote, I might rework.
Yeah, go back and rework. That makes sense. As a person who is never happy with their own work, I understand wholeheartedly where you're coming from there. Like, I'm never satisfied with anything I do, and I always end up reworking it 1,000 times. So I get it. I totally get that. Are you producing it yourself, or are you writing and producing, or are you writing and performing and letting someone else to produce?
I have a few beats that I purchased. I do my own mixing. I might reach out to a friend of mine to have him do the mixing. I'm debating, because he can do some oh my god, he can do some crazy shit.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things, like, so I think one of the most important things is always know your own limits, right? And never do something half-assed when you want to love it fully, right? So, you know, I personally, I don't know what you've mixed and what you haven't mixed, so I can't say. I can say that all of the music that you have performed, I have enjoyed. So, you know, I can't say that I know the difference. That being said, I have a question. Who is your favorite other nerdcore rapper to work with?
My favorite to work with?
Yeah, I don't want to ask, because I don't want to be like the sleazy, like, who do you give me the good dirt? Who do you hate working with? No, it's just like, who do you enjoy working with? That's, you know, that's a pretty harmless question, I thought.
The one time I worked with DPS, that was fun.
Very fastness. That's really cool. Because full disclosure, he is my favorite nerdcore rapper, like individual nerdcore rapper. Even though I mostly listen to ciphers, and he's no longer doing ciphers, so it's like I kind of missed out on a lot of, like, I miss his input into a lot of the ciphers. But like, as a standalone rapper, he is my favorite. Hope that doesn't hurt your feelings, but
no.
Yeah. It's good to know that he's actually good to work with. Yeah, that's a positive thing to hear. Hey, give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
You think ciphers get annoying to listen to, Sean? Imagine being on them.
Okay, sorry. Apparently my frozen food was delivered like 3 hours ago and was just sitting out on my front porch. So that's cool. Oh. It's all insulated box and has like dry ice and everything else. So but yeah, so yeah, it's a great chance to get to work with you. We'll work on the map offline together. And if you would like to come back on to do more world building stuff, me and you can discuss like what you want to cover, so I can prepare some more stuff to go over with you. But you know, I hope that it's been helpful. That's, you know, ultimately that was the goal, right? To help you out. You know, I like to go through these things, and as long as you can take away a few good practices, then I consider that a mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely helpful.
All right, cool. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I guess I'm going to transition over to Apex for the night. But I will say thank you so much for joining me, Savvy. Also, thank you, Colt, for getting me. You guys just pushed me up to 301 followers on Twitch. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's 305 actually is where I'm sitting right this second. So thank you guys so much for getting me there. I appreciate it. That's, every little bit helps. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Savvy, I hope you have a great night. I am going to, thank you. I'm gonna fuck that up. Kamakit? Is that right? Savvy, is Kamakit right?
I can't read it. I blind.
Nah.
Type. I need them to type.
That's fine. Yeah, I appreciate it. Savvy, hit me up. Hit me up anytime you want to work on the world building. I will go through and make your map for you from scratch with your input. It's a little bit of an involved process, so I'm probably gonna need like 2 hours of your time to go through and make a map. This one right here probably took about an hour, probably an hour 10 minutes. But if we're talking about like a individual continent one, like the Endril ones, this right here will probably take about 2 hours to make. Oh, thank you, SMC. I do appreciate that. But yeah, like something about this level takes about 2 hours, give or take. I would say actually closer to 3 hours because a lot of this is planning and stuff. Because like getting all the stickers on and in the right place can take some time. But yeah, whenever you have 3 hours you want to set up to make your map, let me know, okay?
Will, for sure, and I appreciate the help.
No, always. Well, anything else you want to cover before we end call?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, Savvy, have a great night, and thank you so much for your time. I hope that it was helpful, and I look forward to going through with you again.
I do too. That was fun.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. All right. Well, Legion,